for a very long time. This is a book that Kenyans should read if at all they want to peer into the history of one, Kenya's politics, into the history of two, Kenya's economic development over time, and three, if they also want to know about how the church in Kenya has evolved over time. If you are also one into social work, this is a very good book that will encourage you to always be in pursuit of the good of humankind. This book, this is an autobiography of Moody Awuori. So Moody Awuori served as the Vice President of Kenya between 2003 and 2007. He became the Vice President of Kenya after the late Michael Kijana Wamalwa died while receiving treatment in London. So I read this book because, one, the Moody Awuori, having served as a Kenyan politician, is still looked upon with some grace, and his name does not bring back memories of a shattered Kenya or memories of funds being stolen from offices. The mention of the name Moody Awuori does not bring the memories of corruption in offices where he served. It is noteworthy that he was also the Member of Parliament for Nyula for almost 5 terms, which he served consecutively, losing in 2007 during the ODM dominance in his backyard when he sided with Kibaki's Party of National Unity. So reading this book gives you an insight into Kenya's political space since the pre-colonial times, and it brings you along with it to the colonial period, takes you to when Kenya gained independence, then it brings you to post-independence Kenya, then now the intrigues of politics begin. This book details a little bit of the struggle for multi-party democracy that was in Kenya. This book also highlights the rule of KANU in this nation. It also highlights the genesis of YK92, that is the Youth for KANU, that was put together in 1992, that brought Jirongo and William Ruto, who is now the President of Kenya, to fame. So this book also brings you to the after multi-party struggle, and it takes you to the battle that Moi faced, or the battle that was sounded to hound the late President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi out of power in 2002. It details the intrigues of the coalition that was formed in 2002 that had President Mwai Kibaki running as its flag bearer, and the MOU that was signed then by the NAC coalition. It also details the kind of betrayal that politics is. It lays bare the kind of agreements that were, the things that transpired after power was taken by Mwai Kibaki in 2002, and what happened. It also mentions briefly what happened during the 2005 referendum that we had, where we had Orange Democratic Movement individuals saying no, and the banana guys saying yes. And again, it takes us to 2007, the intrigues and what led to the clashes of the 2007. I'll say that this book does not really touch deeply into the events of the 2007. Moody Awuori in his writing says that the happenings are already well documented, and so I'll believe that that is one of the reasons why he did not detail so much or write so much about the 2007-2008 post-election violence. This book also speaks post-2007, gives a little bit of Moody Awuori's life post being a vice president and post being a politician. He says that it is a lonely path, but he was a good businessman. So thanks to that, he did not go back home. He stayed in the city, has an office where he continues to manage some of his businesses and continues to chair some businesses, associations, and foundations. One thing that I noticed here is how vast the Awuori family is. The Awuori family is so big that it is very difficult to go to any part of this world, I'll say, and miss an Awuori. This family is so big that by the time that Moody Awuori declared that he wanted to be a president in 2002, his brother Agri Awuori was also vying to be a president in Uganda, vying against Museveni. You see, anytime you see the mention of a name Awuori in the public space, it is safe to assume that that individual comes from this family. The Awuori family also has big business people. The founder of Makini School is Moody Awuori's sister. So that is how big these individuals are. Moody Awuori is the founder of Mareba Tiles. This is a guy that got into politics at 50, about 53, 56 years of age. And before then, he had served in different capacities. His doctor, his brother, Dr. Nelson Wanyama Awuori, was also a fine practitioner. Many medical students who studied in Kenya would agree with me that the name Nelson Awuori is very familiar. If you go to Upper Hill, you will see the Nelson Awuori Center, which was founded by the Awuoris in memory of their late brother, whom he says that was the wisest or the most intelligent or academically gifted of all the brothers. He is not the only politician in their family, as I've said. He had a brother, I'd call him WWW Awuori, who was also a big politician. He also has a brother in Uganda who served with Obote, who has been in opposition at the time that Museveni served, who is also served and vied as a president in Uganda. Part of the Awuori family is in Uganda till date. This is because one of his sisters moved there, and so as their siblings grew up, most of them chose to go and live with her over there. And I'd like to say, or from what I've read here, it is safe to say that Moody Awuori, or Arthur Moody Awuori, served Kenya to the best of his ability. There are two distinct areas that he has mentioned that I find interesting. One is the area of the Association of People with Disabilities Kenya, that is APDK. In this book, Moody Awuori speaks about the history of APDK, what informed its starting, and the journey that has made that organization very big. It speaks about going to rehabilitation international conferences, and it speaks about bidding for Kenya to host one of that conference, that is the 17th World Conference for Rehabilitation, that is. And he also speaks about prison reforms. At the time that he was doing prison reforms, he was the Minister of Home Affairs and continued that work even when he became the Vice President. And that was easy because he was allowed to maintain his position as a minister. His reforms were so vast such that when the buses, or when he brought the reforms for prison buses, these buses were named after him. They were called Moody hoppers. And he can be remembered for so much in the prison's reforms. And one, we can point that he is the man that took television sets to our prisons. He is the man that started building prisons that gave dignity to the prisoners. Because Moody Awuori argues that prisons are supposed to be correctional centers and not centers where people are thrown to die or to waste away. He also championed for prisoners to get quality food and at least get visitation from family members once a year. He did so much work, including women and male and female prisons, and rallied Kenyans who contributed generously to such causes. I also have to point out that Moody Awuori has his own periods of shame. I hesitated because that is a very strong word to use. But he has a very elaborate period of shame while serving as a KANU Member of Parliament and a KANU Assistant Minister. So Moody Awuori could pass as a KANU stalwart, and he followed Mzee Moi around as one of his henchmen and advisors, I'll say. He is among the people that questioned less about decisions that President Moi made. And he says that that really was a time of personal shame for him. But I'd also say that that could pass for a man who learned to survive during his time. The other time for personal shame are the events that led to the 2007-2008 political violence. He says that there are decisions that were made, particularly on the formation of the ECK and on the matter of Samuel Kivuitu being the chair of that particular commission, and calls being made for Samuel Kivuitu to step down, yet they maintained their hard stance. In the backdrop of all this, he says that his loyalty was with President Mwai Kibaki. But again, he admits that that was a time of personal shame. I took great pleasure in reading this book because, one, I went to Mangu High School, and Moody Awuori went to Mangu High School as well. And when we were at school, we took great pride that Moody Awuori once sat in the classrooms that we were sitting in. We took great pride that Moody Awuori once slept on the beds that we were sleeping in. He was a Mangu man, and he still remains a Mangu man. So there was a time in this country when two gentlemen from Mangu High School served the country at the two most important positions. That is, as Mwai Kibaki serving as the president and Moody Awuori serving as the vice president. As someone who studied in Mangu High School, I also took note of how these individuals have gone and made Kenya great. I have taken great notice that these individuals dedicated their lives to make the lives of others better and to make Kenya a great nation. Reading this book as well, I have to point out how fast times are changing. You see, for someone like Moody Awuori, it was very easy for him to change careers. It was very easy for him to change what he did. It was very easy for him to flourish in business. And it was very easy for them to do business from Western Kenya all the way to Uganda. It was also very easy for him to move places in Kenya. They had difficulties though in the post-independence Kenya when the blacks were still segregated. But they also overcome these things. And so this is a very good book. Any Kenyan should be interested to know what lies within these pages and to peer into the mind of one of the individuals who can boast of being in Kenya's political space for a very long time. This is a book that Kenyans should read if at all they want to peer into the history of one, Kenya's politics, into the history of two, Kenya's economic development over time, and three, if they also want to know about how the church in Kenya has evolved over time. If you are also one into social work, this is a very good book that will encourage you to always be in pursuit of the good of humankind. Thank you.